this fly. Been around a long time, invented by Charles St. Pierre, one of the longest standing patterns I know of that still is viable today as it was the day it came off his bench, responsible for probably more steelhead in the course of the whole kind of big fly revolution, if you will, probably than any other fly combined, I would say. These things, they're not necessarily huge in the water column, but just it's an amazing profile. Winter, summer, spring, fall, these flies catch fish. Unweighted, so you don't lose them all the time. There's things you can do to weight them and just do various other things. This is, it's almost kind of like a base too you can add to this, but this is the original. This one was tied by Charles St. Pierre. Yeah, these things are just, they should be a few of them at least in your box at all times. They do catch a ton of fish. And this is a great one for beginner winter steelheading tires to start with, because it's relatively cheap to get a whole bunch of different color combos and really fill a box, and it kind of gets you familiar with working with shanks and bigger plumes of marabou and stuff like that. So right now I'm starting with a Montana Fly Company shank, a 30mm. It's kind of their version of the Waddington. And I'm going to start with a thread base. And these things, since they're doubled back over, you can kind of get off kilter. So you just want to make sure when you're tying your thread base, careful of that jump, that everything is squared up nice and even. So now we got totally flat. I'm going to tie this kind of the original way with fire line for the trailer. Bunch of debate on whether it should be wire, fire line, whatever. I fished them for years with fire line and never really had any issues hooking fish. I think we can maybe overcomplicate some things, but this has always worked fine for me, so we'll go the original way. For the length of the fire line, you want to be exactly the shank. So if you measure the shank without the loops on either end, but just the shank. So the easiest way to do that is tie it in up top. Make a couple wraps just to hold it there. And your scissors become a great measuring tool where you can measure it out and then come up here and see we're pretty long here. So I'm going to pull this down. To where I get my length. That should be about right. Tiny bit long, but I kind of like where that's at. Alright. Check measurement one more time. And we're a tiny bit long, but I don't really want to go shorter than that. I probably should actually. If we're going to do it right. Okay, on the money. And I'm going to wrap this all the way forward, careful of where the wire comes together in the middle. Right about here, I'm going to dip this through the eye of the hook, pull it tight, wrap it back. Give her a cut. So what you can do right now, if you got this little pawn, I like to put on the hook right now just so I can check lengths on everything. So just loop it on. Okay, we got our overall length now. I'm just going to pop this down so I don't shank myself in the process. But it is nice to have the hook here because you do have a shank length, and this is what we always forget when we tie these loops too long. It looks good without the hook because it looks about the same, you know, where it should be, but then you add the shank of the hook. I mean, that's a solid 1/2 inch that we're adding to the overall length of this whole thing. And different hooks have different shank lengths. You know, owners I think are a little bit longer shank length than Gamakatsus and whatever, so you just want to, if you can get your measurements, you know, as you tie the fly, it just saves you from having a fly that isn't right at the very end. So the butt is going to be blue steely ice dub. I create a dubbing loop, and I'm going to put this in, and no particular, I'm not going to stack it, I'm not going to do anything like we do with like intruders. This is just going to go in ratty. And I tie that in. That's probably good there. You can always tie, if you got too much, you don't need to tie in all this, you can just clip it off. Okay. I'm just going to leave it like that. We got these little wispies out, and that's exactly how we want it. You can, you know, pull it out or whatever, but I just leave it like that. Take a jumbo guinea. Tie it in tip first. And I'm going to take some black UV ice dub and create my body. Okay, now leave a little bit more room up here than you would think because we have 2 plumes of marabou and other stuff going on to tie in. It's easy to crowd the crowd the eye on this fly. Since the stem bark, I'm using hackle pliers here. I'm going to run my scissors down the top of the feather to get all the fibers facing rearward when I wrap it. I'm going to make as many wraps as I can before I hit the front of the fly because I want a full wrap at the front, just like that. That's going to help keep the marabou open. Tie it off and tie it down. Okay. I mean, you probably, in low clear water, I mean, hell, you could just fish this and be money ahead. You know, I would say, like, come August when it's warm, this would be a totally viable fly to fish. As it is, maybe like tuna, a tuna like blue-eared pheasant or something, just to finish it off, but even that looks good. So black and blue is the name of the game on this fly. Pretty boring, but these were the colors that I found first in my mess, so that's what we're tying. Other combos, purple and pink is a good combo, orange and red is a good combo, black and blue obviously here, but you can do black and purple. With the marabous, Nature Spirit marabous, they have a ton, like lilac and purple is a good purpley combo. I mean, there's a ton of stuff you can do. Chartreuse and black, chartreuse and blue. So tie the marabou plume in tip first. This is the now Nature Spirit, used to be Fish Hunter Nature Spirit Spey marabou. And how many turns always depends on the quality of the plume we're using. But I'm going to eyeball it, and this one will probably be like 4 turns. Yeah, 4 looks good. Now with all this excess, I'm just going to pull it off. So I'm just tying in stem. Looks good. And we'll take a little royal blue. Do the same thing. Pick a spot. Tip first, tie it in. I'll start wrapping back a little bit. Crowded the head just a little bit on this one. So we just pull everything back and then kind of wrap our thread up over, and this actually makes a more durable fly overall because now we've locked in all those stems. So for the Amherst pheasant, you notice, the marabou stops at one point, and we want the Amherst pheasant to go past the marabou. So you gotta, on the whole tail here, you gotta find the longest fibers. And I'm gonna just 2-by them here. Let's check our length against the hook, see that looks good right there. And we're just going to work our way around the fly. Alright, cool. Clip our butts real close. Tie them all down. And see if we have any gaps in here that we want to fix, but that looks pretty even. Last step is going to be crinkle mirror flash. I'm just going to take 3 or 4 pieces, put it over the top, make a couple wraps, double it back over, and tie it all down. Give her a whip finish. This whip finisher is like hammered. I think that's the first whip finisher in my life I've ever worn out. I didn't think that was possible. Alright, give her a cut. Now I'm going to trim this just a bit longer than the Amherst. And that's it, finished Hohbo Spey. For these, I like the Loon fluorescing hardhead. I like both. I mean, not both the hardheads. The fluorescing is the one I've been using a lot. We got quite a bit of thread showing here, so I like a real hard, nice glossy head cement. You can use UV, but UV cracks a lot. I mean, some of the Euro nymph fishermen are probably noticing that UV, while it's good on a timeline, you know, you can get your flies done right away. If it hits rocks or anything, it's almost like a shell, like that ice cream topper, you know, where it just shells up. So if it cracks at all, it's just going to slide off the back of the hook or just break off. So, you know, true head cement like this won't do that. So anyway, that's kind of a 101, you know, good intro to winter steelhead fly tying is the Hohbo Spey. Amazing fly. I mean, you really should just be fishing these anyway. This thing, like I say, it will just never be out of style. It will never not work. This thing is just a killer fly. Cold weather on the Deschutes come, well, if the Deschutes is blown out, or midday sink tip stuff, you know, on like a type 3 or type 6, this works great. This is probably the best click-a-tap fly all in all that I've used over the years guiding it. Kalama, Clackamas, Sandy, I mean, everywhere this thing just seems to work. You know, obviously the Olympic Peninsula in the wintertime, hence its birth, but this thing is just a killer fly. And on our next video, we're going to show different things you can do with the fly to kind of spruce it up, because you can get bored. You know, this is an easy one to start with. It's what we recommend people starting with, because you can tie it and get fishing right away. But it does get a little boring just to tie these after a while. So our next video will show where this is kind of a base, and then you can add cool different things to it and really kind of add some variety to your fly box and options without going too crazy into full intruder world. So anyway, thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.